Welcome to the Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries monthly Lunch and Learn series. My name is Paul Anderson. I'm the Executive Director here at the Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries. Today, we're coming to you live from our facility right on the harbor in Stonington, Maine. And we're trying a bit of an experiment today, rather than our typical topic, which is often a science or policy discussion about the issues that face our coastal working waterfronts and fisheries. Today, we're going to take you on a tour through part of our free choice education, part of our offerings here at the center. You'll get a tour with your host, Pat Shepard, in a moment, who will introduce you to some of our people downstairs, and you'll get to take a look at the Discovery Wharf and some of the offerings that we have there for folks that come and visit us. Our center's mission is to help sustain commercial fishing and the communities that depend on commercial fishing here in Eastern Maine and beyond. And we do that through collaborative research, collaborative management, and collaborative education. So today, we're diving into some of the informal education parts of our work, and happy to have you with us. I'm going to stop sharing this slide here. And hopefully we have Pat Shepard joining us from downstairs, and Tate, thanks to Tate for attending the camera. And I'm going to disappear and be around to help with questions and answers later on. Can you hear me, Pat?
I can hear you, Paul. Thank you very much. So welcome to Stonington, Maine. I don't know how many viewers we have right now, but I can't see you, but as a show of hands, how many have visited Stonington? That's great. So we're here in Stonington. We're about halfway up the coast in the state of Maine, and we're here on the harbor. This is our waterfront headquarters right here. This is Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries. So this is our office headquarters, even though we work all over the state and all over the region. I like to brag that I grew up in the most beautiful place on earth. I grew up actually about a half a mile from here. So for those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Pat Shepard. I'm the collaborative research specialist here at Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries, and my main role is ground fish research in the fishing industry. But I also help manage Discovery Wharf, our interpretive center here at our waterfront headquarters. And it's sort of it's a really awesome creative space where people can come in and learn about fishing in Eastern Maine and learn about the challenges that fishermen face on a day-to-day basis. They get to get their hands wet and play around with some critters, which we're going to do in just a moment. But if you look behind me, we've got some boats coming in to the harbor. This is about the time of day where lobstermen typically come in and sell their catch. You see a lot of this time of year. You see a lot of boats with mast and booms on. So there's a boat coming around the corner here right now, a black one, and you see this tall mast and boom on the that's rigged to the boat. This boat is actually harvesting pogies or menhaden, and this time of year the pogies or menhaden are moving into the shores, and they're actually they're a really important bait fish for the lobster industry. So this time of year you'll see lobster boats, you'll see pogie boats. In the wintertime, when you see boats with a mast and boom on, usually means they're scallop dragging. So this time of day, the harbor is kind of bustling with activity. So it's an exciting time. We're going to take a walk. Actually, let's turn around first and show you the town. This is Main Street in Stonington, right through here. So if you come and visit us down on the waterfront here, you're going to come down Main Street and then down Atlantic Avenue. And we're pretty much right on the water. Our office kind of sticks out over the water a little bit. During a bad storm, we can usually feel the waves lapping the bottom of the building down here. So we get the full experience down here in Stonington. So let's go for a walk. This is today's an exciting day for Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries because we're celebrating a brand new exhibit that we've installed on this railing here. There are 4 interpretive signs that are part of a display that is centered around climate change and coastal resiliency and really the fragility of our coast and our infrastructure. So we're unveiling these signs to the public today. We're having we have a private event this afternoon to celebrate some of the donors that have contributed to the display, and then it's officially open to the public after that. So I would encourage everybody to come down tomorrow and through the weekend and through the summer to come check them out. We'll give you a little sneak preview though. I heard that some people are asking about Leroy already. Don't worry, we'll get to him. He's just in through the doors. So we'll get to the live with Leroy part of it in just a moment. I know nobody came here to see me, so so this is what the interpretive signs look like. We did I thought the company that put them together did a very nice job at sort of putting together the information that we gave them in a pretty coherent way. We've got some old photos of what the town used to look like. This photo is from the early 1900s. You can see some pea pods there. We can ask Leroy about pea pods in a moment. He used to fish off of them. And then this particular sign looks out to the pier and shows some of the equipment that's on the pier and sort of describes what the different pieces of equipment do. So this is one of 4 signs that we've just installed. We can go down and take a peek at the next one, and then we'll go inside and meet Leroy. So a lot of people don't, when they come to Stonington, they're excited about eating lobster rolls and seeing the fishing boats come and go. But what a lot of people don't know is that Stonington actually used to be a granite town before it was a fishing town. And if we look just beyond the harbor here, this first island that's out here that you can see that sort of has a green hilltop to it is a granite quarry. It's called Crotch Island, and it's where a lot of the granite came from that was used to build a lot of buildings around the world, actually. So granite was harvested from Crotch Island and then shipped out to various places from there, and they actually still harvest granite from that quarry today. A lot of times in the summertime, when you're walking through town, you can hear like a sort of a high-pitched ringing, kind of like a jet engine. And they're actually cutting stone with big propane torches out on the island, and that's what that sort of high-pitched jet engine kind of sound is. So this interpretive sign sort of describes the quarry days here in Stonington. And as you can see, these were pretty beautifully put together. We're really happy with them. There's a really neat story about this foundation on this island just beyond this little spit of water. There's a foundation that still exists there that used to be a camp, and there was a man by the name of Frank Warren who built the camp for his wife, and his wife wanted someplace where she could go and relax and sort of recharge from the day. And lightning actually struck the cottage, and she was so scared. They hadn't even moved into it yet. She hadn't spent a day in the cottage yet. She was so scared that she refused to go out there, and she made him tear it down. So shortly after the cottage was built, she made Frank completely tear it down, and all that's left today is the foundation. So all you can see there is the old foundation that used to hold the cottage that was never lived in. So let's go inside and meet Leroy and see what he's got in store for us. Come on in. Mr. Leroy. Yeah, we got some visitors for you. Come on over.
Yes, sir.
So,
Coming, boss.
so we're here in Discovery Wharf.
What do you want?
This is Captain Leroy Weed. He's at the helm down here in Discovery Wharf, and he's going to go through some of the animals in the tank and show you some of the critters that crawl around in the bay here in Stonington. I'm going to just step around to the other side.
Okay.
Leroy, first, before you get into it, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how long you've lived in Stonington, things like that.
I'm Leroy Weed. I was born in this town. Good many years ago. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But anyway, I fished just about all my life, not quite yet, but I'm still going. And of most of this knowledge that I have acquired over the years, I've acquired by doing, learning, asking, going with other people, asking questions. Some will tell you, some never will. So a lot of these old fellas have died and took a lot of their information with them. I chose to share it, to give a lot of the people that don't have a knowledge of this, when they visit us, to make our place more welcoming to them, rather than drive into town, smell the stinky bait, look at the beautiful boats in the harbor, and that's all they see. So this program here gives the people and their children a hands-on experience to experience the wildlife that we have in the area, which is very unique, very unique. And we try to respect it as much as we can by taking care of our environment. Don't throw your trash overboard. You don't dump your waste oil overboard. You respect your environment, and it'll come back to you when you can make a living. I've made a living from the water my whole life. I've done about everything there is to do: climbing, mussling, seaweeding, lobstering, scalloping, and halibut fishing. I've done it all. So the seasons change. Sometimes you have an open season to get into one of the other fisheries.
So some of the things that you just mentioned are actually right here in the tank. So why don't we,
Yeah, so
why don't we grab
we're gonna start here with a lobster. This is probably one of the most plentiful species that you will find along the waterfront, because there's about 600 licenses in this town. The people are catching these. So this little fella is about 8 years old, I'd say. And they measure him from the back of the eye parallel to this green line on his back. And the measure has to stay up on his back for him to be legal. Okay? This is a female. And you can tell the female with these little feelers right here. On the female, these are flexible and they're flat and transparent. If you look at the tail is wider this way, the width, and it's scooped out because she carries her eggs under her tail. Okay? The claws, we have two different claws. We have the claws with the big round teeth, which is we call the crusher claw. Okay? This is the power claw. It's always thicker. And if you had a 10-pound lobster that bit you with this one, you'd probably hear bones break. This one is the one that tears his food apart. As you can see, the needle-like teeth in there, if he gets a crab, one of these small crabs, he'd rip it apart with it. So now he's caught the crab with this one, killed it, tore it apart with this one, but he has trouble eating because these things don't really go down to his mouth. They're like boxing gloves on him. Okay? So he will hand off the food to these little legs here. You can see the little things that he's grabbing my finger. So he takes his food with these and he sticks it in his mouth, which is right here. Okay, can you see that? And then in here, you can see his teeth. Okay, he's got a set of teeth right here and here. And down in here, he's got a set of molars. So what he'll do is take the shell of the crab in there and he'll grind it, chop it, grind it, and make it into a paste. So that when you cook this thing and break it down and extract the meat from the tail, you take the track out, you won't find any shells in the track. It'll be all paste. Okay? That's the female. The male does the same thing, only he's designed a little different. The claws doesn't always tell you if it's male and female according to what side the claw is on. This can be on either side and vice versa. Okay, that doesn't mean a thing. Doesn't tell you the sex of the lobster. This, however, does. These shell-like configurations right here, that's the male. Okay, and you notice his tail is narrow and it comes rounding up this way. He doesn't course, carry any eggs. Okay? And this guy, when you're in a couple 100 feet of water, you'll see these whiskers, antennas, if you will. And you see what he's doing when I'm moving him around. He's moving them back. He's trying to feel what's going on. These come out ahead of him in front. They go to the side, and they also go to the back. So if he's in a couple of 100 feet of water, he can tell what's around him with these antennas because his visibility is probably zero. Okay? That's the man. Then we have these little scallops in here. These are aquaculture scallops. I'm not sure of the whole process, how they raise these, but they're raised on a circular mat. And the scallops are put in there with a lid on it. And a rope comes up with a big buoy on the top. So it's enclosed to keep the other animals from grabbing the scallops. Now, these ones, you can eat everything that's inside. And if you look inside, if you'll open up, you'll see an abductor muscle in the back. And on most of the scallops, that's the part you eat. Can you see it in there? No good? See if we can get him open. And the little black spots around here, top and bottom, is his eyes. And if you look careful, you'll see it looks like he's got a lip hanging down on the top and the bottom. And what he does with that, he filters his plankton that he eats through that. Okay? This one is probably a couple years old, 3 years old. Okay? The color doesn't mean anything, it's just the color of the shell. The ones in the wild will grow 8-10 inches across them with a big abductor muscle in it. So you go in the restaurant, you want a scallop dinner, and they got one of these big meats. The chef is in there, breads it, puts it on your plate. Guess what? You just paid $50 for one scallop. That's your scallop dinner. You got one scallop. Then we got a hermit crab. These little fellas on the back end don't really have a shell. His body is soft on the tail end. So what they do, they crawl around, and as they grow, they keep taking over these empty shells for their home, hiding spot, if you will. So that protects him. As you can see, he's in there. He's hiding. He'll come out, and then he'll go back in, and so forth. So this, I don't know of any purpose for them. I've never known anybody to eat one. I don't know what you'd eat on it. But we have what we call a moon snail. They're about that big around. And I've seen the hermit crabs in them. They get pretty big. Okay? Now we're going to move up here to some crab. We got some crabs here. This is a stone crab, Jonah crab, or rock crab. Okay? You can see his claws here. This little guy may be little, but don't underestimate him. He'd give you a pretty hard pinch. The shell on the back is pretty rough like sandpaper. And what I do when I catch him, I just take one claw off and recycle him. He'll grow a new one. Lobsters grow new claws, new legs. Crabs do, and starfish do. I don't know what else does, but I know they do. So this is one type. And there's another one here somewhere. You see the pinky toe? Where he is. Okay. No, that's a rock crab. Oh. There he is. I think they're hiding.
There's a baby scallop.
There's a baby scallop. Whoa. Oh, there he is. Ella's got him over here. She's putting him into hiding. I think that lobster's hoping that he could have him for lunch. As you can see, they're quite different. The sand crab, or picky toe, as they're locally called, is smooth bodied, and they grow 4 or 5 inches across. They're similar to a Maryland blue crab, only they don't have the paddle foot on the back. The Maryland blue crab has a wide paddle foot on the back. And these are very good eating. The meat is very delicate in the sand crab, real fine quality, whereas the rock crab, the fibers of the meat are a lot coarser. Okay? These are treasured for, the girls like to pick them. There's a lot of meat in the legs. And some of the girls will take one of these legs and extract the meat out of the body with that leg. They pull it out with that point. This is a blue mussel. These are local. The blue crab, the green crabs have done their job on some of the little mussel beds. And right now we're in the process of hopefully replenishing those beds. If the crabs have ate them all, then maybe they'll move on somewhere else and find another spot to work on. This year, hey, come here. This here is called, one of the fishermen will tell you that's a horn dog or a sculpin. Okay? And if you look at this guy close, he's camouflaged up pretty good. But right here on his side of his body, you'll see these big bones. And if you get punctured by one of them, chances are you will get blood poisoning. And the fishermen tell me, if you kiss him, it's good luck. And I got a cameraman here, I think they might want to try. You want good luck today kissing this horn dog? No? Okay, he's a funny looking fella, but he's pretty quick. They grow pretty big. They grow up like this. Actually, it's one of the lobster's favorite foods. You put one of them in a trap, chances are 9 out of 10 times you catch a lobster.
Speaking of lobsters, Steve,
What is that one you got there? What do you call him?
this is called a cunner.
Cunner.
This one's harder to catch. Maybe Leroy can wrangle it.
All right, I think it's over here. He's over here. He runs, but he can't hide.
Chasing fish with Leroy Weed.
Anyway. These ones, there you go.
There you go. He doesn't like to be out of the water.
No, they don't. No,
That's all right. So what are cunner?
Huh?
What are cunner?
What are they?
Yep.
Food for the ospreys, all I know of known them to be. I see the ospreys diving on them, and that's what they catch.
Yep.
But what they do after that, I've never known anybody to eat one. I don't know if you can. They're all bones, I think. More, I think they're worse than allies. So that's pretty much what we have right at the moment in the tank. However, we can move over to the chart over here. We can show you some of the other animals that are in this area. The periwinkle, these are edible. This is a big rock crab. They grow like 5-6 inches across, weigh a pound.
Do you mind getting on this side of me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The spider crab, the only thing I know eats him is a seagull. Most generally, they live in the mud, and to my knowledge, nobody ever eats them. These are the steamer clams, if you want to call them that, soft shell clams. Sea cucumber. They cut these open, take the stomach out, take the skin off, chop up what's left. It's supposed to be good for your joints. So far, my joints have been good. I haven't eaten one, probably never will. This is a sea urchin. These have roe in them. And they're very, very salty. I don't know if you can really eat it. It's so salty. These are the big scallops here. Okay. And then we have the hermit crab, which we see. I don't have a starfish, this is a bigger one. This here is the enemy of the scallops. What this guy does is gets on top of the scallop. And when the scallop opens up, he'll stick one of his arms in. Now the scallop will die. He'll smother, the scallop can't breathe, so he dies and he eats him. Okay, this guy here will attack the scallop. If you turn one over and look at the bottom, they have like an acid that'll eat a hole right down through that shell, and they'll kill the scallop, and they'll eat it. Okay? All right.
Let's introduce, we're going to introduce Ella Weber, who's our summer intern this year. So this is Ella, and Ella's going to demonstrate we have a virtual reality exhibit here in Discovery Wharf, and you can put a VR headset on, and you can actually be in a bunch of different places along the coast of Maine, including on a lobster boat, inside a lobster trap. You can go whitewater rafting. You can fly in the life flight helicopter, which serves as sort of the ambulance for a lot of the outer islands. If you have an emergency in a very rural place in Maine, most likely you're going to get picked up by a helicopter than an ambulance, because they're a lot faster and they can get to places a lot quicker than the ambulance can. So Ella's going to put the headset on, and we're going to show you a couple of the VR experiences we have.
There.
So there's a mix of different experiences on here, from kayaking to lobstering. Basically everything that you would ever want to do in Maine is on here. And we filmed these experiences basically from here all the way up through the mountains of Maine. This particular experience was filmed down in Casco Bay with a friend of ours down there who took his family out sea kayaking for the day. And these experiences were filmed with what's called a 360-degree camera. So it's got a lens on both sides, and it films in sort of a globe, and then there's software that stitches it together. So we've gone around the state of Maine, and we've collected a bunch of different experiences for you, and put them together in a bunch of different videos. So Ella's gonna she's gonna fly on the life flight helicopter here. This is video lobstering with a friend of ours, Richard Nelson, down in Casco Bay. And the really fun part about this video is that you can actually get inside a lobster trap with lobsters. It's kind of a creepy experience. We've had a lot of people sitting in Ella's chair squealing and screaming about the lobsters that are seemingly coming towards your face. If you've never put a VR headset on, it actually feels like you're there. The reason we have Ella sitting in a chair is because sometimes you can actually get a little disoriented and dizzy as you're flying up through the water with a bunch of lobsters surrounding you. So that's just a little taste of the VR exhibit, and I think we're gonna have Leroy show you a lobster trap next.
You want to see the egg lobster?
Oh yeah, sure.
We didn't do that.
We got an egg lobster. We'll do the.
Yeah, I mean, the female in there on the wall.
Let's do the trap first. I want to leave.
Trap first?
I want to leave some time for questions. I know people got questions.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll get this open. Hey, where you want to get? Where you are?
Yeah, I'll probably sit right here.
Okay. The lobster doesn't necessarily have any particular way to come into a trap. He might come in backwards, or he might come in frontwards. Most of them, I think, prefer frontwards. They have their antennas ahead of them. So if there's one over here on this other mesh, he most generally will back off. And he'll wait, and you come back and check it again to make sure that he's gone. So, okay, he comes in. This part of the trap is referred to as the kitchen. This is where the food is. We sometimes fish this time of year for two different types, not types of lobster, but two different hardness of the shell. In this bag, we would put soft bait, herring, menhaden, mackerel, anything that we could squish up and stuff in that bag. And on this line that you see here, we would put a fish head. most generally the hard shell lobsters can break a piece of the hard bait, we call it, off and eat that, where the shedder's soft shell can't, because their claws aren't hard enough to break that bone. So we put both types on, and the hard bait most generally will last longer than the soft bait, because sometimes if the soft bait is fresh, the crabs get a hold of it and they'll clean it off quite quick. Okay, so he's in here, and I'll get you so you can see where he is. These are bottom dwellers. He's under these rings, as you notice, and he's going to go around and around where the trap is. He might be in 200 feet of water. Going to be dark down there because the sun doesn't penetrate that far down. So he's having trouble seeing. He knows where these rings are, but he's yet to figure out how to get to them. He can't jump up and jump in them. So he go around. Sometimes they go up here and they get out, and that's okay. We don't catch them all. Or he may crawl around and he'll go this way, because this end, this slope is the amount of least resistance. He'll go that way thinking that he's getting out. So they put these, what they call these little gate locks on the end of the ring. That opens up when he comes up to go through. He's gone through. Now he's going to try to figure out again how to get out. So he comes up, and that won't open. It's locked. So he's trapped. So if he's big enough to keep, that's probably just what we'll do with him, because he won't get out. Because these vents that we put in, these are designed for the juveniles and the crabs. But most generally, the market lobsters are too big to get out through there. So we keep them. But if we get a female in there with eggs, they are very detrimental to the juvenile lobsters. The mother lobster will protect those eggs at all costs. So most generally, you will find a lot of shells in the trap where she has killed the little ones to protect the eggs. So this was the idea of these vents put in. One in this side, which is rectangular, is good for the crabs. The round ones is actually bigger than this one. That's a 2.5-inch hole. This one is 1 15/16. So that one is actually bigger than this one. So the lobsters a lot of times prefer that one because they get the tail out. They put one claw over the other and they'll get out. Then we take it one step further. If you look at the door, you'll see a yellow square in the door. And if you look carefully here, you'll see these rings around here. These rings are steel. These rings are stainless steel. So in a month or so, month and a half maybe, these will rust off and this door will drop down. So if this trap has had its marker cut off and say there's 30 feet of line on here, but it's not enough to reach the surface and it's sinking line, it's just going to drop to the bottom. So what happens is a lot of times, another fisherman will fish alongside this, not knowing the trap is there, and the line will wind around his line. So you pull it up, you get the guy's trap back. So you call him, you got a name tag in here. You call him, tell him you got one of his traps. What color is his buoy? Most generally, you know him by hand, by sight anyway. You'll know him by name. And just tie a line on it and tie him on the next trap you see that's his. And he gets his trap back. And he'll repair this, put new rings in it, and put a new line on it, and it goes back fishing. So sometimes they never get them back, and oftentimes most fishermen will give each other their traps back. And these traps are expensive. One this size is probably $125, somewhere in that area. So if you got 800 of them, you've got to put an investment, which most of the guys have. And this little piece here you see on the door, if you don't have this gate, then you watch it as that goes down, and you see that's right on the top of that mesh. So this little lobster comes down this slope, he hits this, he doesn't get to the ring. So he'll go back up. Okay? these white corners, we call them, are put on here so that when the trap comes up, it hits the boat, it doesn't break the plastic. You break the plastic, the wire rusts out a lot quicker. So this is kind of a protection against breaking that plastic. Okay? The bricks keep it on bottom. And you see a bridge stuck across this end for strength. This wire on this end is heavier than the wire on that end. They do that on purpose for strength because this is the end you're pulling on. Sometimes there'll be a rock in front of this trap, and some of these potholes show no mercy to a trap. They'll pull the end right out of it. They're a lot of power. Okay, that's how the trap works.
So I know we probably got some questions for Leroy. Paul, if you're in the chat box, maybe we can bat some questions to Leroy, and we've got about 15 minutes, so we can do 15 minutes of questions and then wrap up.
We don't have any questions right yet, Pat, but folks, you're welcome to type something into the chat or the Q&A, which are buttons at the bottom of your screen. And
yeah, while we're gathering some questions, I would like to talk about a brand new exhibit that's coming to Discovery Wharf. It's we don't have a name for it yet, but it's an interactive climate exhibit. It's going to be installed on this wall here. This exhibit is moving into the other room. We're going to rearrange some things a little bit. And the new exhibit is going to feature a touch table that's going to sit about in the middle of this room. And then there's going to be a set of projectors that actually project an image on the wall around you. And the table in the middle will feature a map. And on the map will be different nodes, different places where you can visit. And if you tap on a place on the map, it'll actually change the walls around you so that it feels like you're there. It's called either virtual reality or augmented reality. And so from there, you can transport yourself to a place and then see what that place looks like in either a 50-year storm or a 100-year storm with projected sea level rise under the current climate change conditions. So it's an exhibit that's supposed to highlight the fragility of the coast, the fragility of our coastal infrastructure, and really put you in a place where that may already actually be happening. You heard Leroy talk about mussels, blue mussels, and the green crabs that have sort of wreaked havoc on the blue mussel population. In my lifetime, just in the past 20 years, the harbor out here actually used to freeze solid. You used to be able to actually walk out to your boats, walk out to some of the outer islands. That doesn't actually happen anymore. And one of the sort of climate effects of that not happening anymore is the blue mussel population. What happened when the coves and when the harbors froze is when the tide went out, the sea ice would settle on the mudflats and kill all the green crabs. That kept the green crab populations in check. And since that doesn't happen anymore, since our waters are too warm now to freeze, the sea ice doesn't settle on the mud. The ice doesn't kill the green crabs, and the green crabs have sort of taken over the mudflats and started to eat a lot of the mussels and clams that used to live there. So it's one of those things where, you know, if you're driving by a harbor, it's one of those things that you might not necessarily see. But you know, speaking with a fisherman who's lived here all his life, you start to learn the effects of some of those climate changes. So,
Pat, we have a question from Ray. He'd like to know how much of a problem are sea squirts or tuna?
sea squirts.
I know what they are.
Sea squirts are an interesting animal. We never actually used to have them here. I don't ever remember sea squirts being here in Stonington up until the last 2 or 3 years. They definitely create a fouling problem. They'll grab onto the meshes of these traps and they'll grow, and they actually grow quite quickly to the point where it's almost impossible to get the trap aboard because they're so heavy with sea squirts. And a lot of times what a fisherman will have to do is sometimes they bring pressure washers, high-powered pressure washers out on the boat, and they pressure wash their traps. sometimes they have these big basins called trap cookers, and they superheat the water with propane torches that are sort of plugged into the bottom of them. And they'll take the bait out, they'll take the lobsters out so that the trap is completely empty. And then they'll dunk the trap in this really hot water to kill the fouling that's on the traps. So it's becoming quite a problem. It's similar to barnacle sets. If there's any fishermen on the call, they'll know how annoying barnacle sets are. They really foul up the traps and make a mess. As far as biologically, I don't really know if there are any major effects from sea squirts, but they definitely cause fishermen a lot of grief, especially in the springtime when they settle on the meshes of the traps. So.
It's kind of a general term, sea squirts, for ascidians that are a whole class of marine organisms that live on the bottom. And a lot of them are native, and they move around, they come and go like many marine species, but we do have invasive and problematic tunicates too that may not look like sea squirts. There's one called didymnum that looks like pancake batter on the bottom. And we're told there are parts of the Gulf of Maine that are just covered with those. And of course, they create a nasty situation for that local ecosystem.
Yeah, the first time I actually saw a sea squirt, I was in college at the University of Rhode Island. I did an internship down in the bay there. I was actually counting bay scallops. We were doing a bay scallop survey, and we would see sea squirts fouling up the cages where we grew the scallops and grew the oysters, and it was normal down there. The sea squirt population is normal to that area. I think since the waters have warmed up on the coast of Maine, we're seeing more and more of them up this way. So,
Janice, who knows Leroy, probably shares the last name, wanted to be reminded. Leroy, how do you tell the age of lobsters?
Janice wants to know, how do you tell how old a lobster is?
That's a good question. I know to go the measure, they're about 8 years old. And they grow probably 1/4 of an inch each year. So if you used to put a measure on the back and measure that first segment on the measure, which is 3 1/4 inches, say you had a 3-pounder, you could measure the rest of it with a scale and you could probably estimate its age. You come pretty close. My experience over the years is they don't grow much more than 1/4 of an inch a year.
Robert,
your question.
Thanks, Leroy. Robert was asking, and I answered him directly, but the whole group might want to know. What's that?
So it's a lot easier to tell the age of a scallop just by counting the different growth rings. So if you look very, very carefully, I don't know if you can see that on your screen, but they have these different growth rings every single year, and it represents the age of their life. You can actually tell how old a fish is similarly by taking the bones out of the ear canal of the fish. They're called otoliths, and you can actually put the ear bone of a fish under a microscope and count the growth rings on a fish's ear bone or otolith and tell the age of a fish. So it's a lot easier to tell in shellfish. It's fairly easy to tell in fish, but pretty much have to estimate with a lobster.
Pat, can you explain the reservation process for Discovery Wharf this year?
Yeah, so we are still under a reservation system for Discovery Wharf this year. If you want to come down and visit Leroy and Ella, you will have to make a reservation. Just go on our website at coastalfisheries.org. There should be a button link on there that you can make a reservation. They're 1-hour reservations. We're open, hopefully I don't get this wrong, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Right?
4 days.
4 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So if you're in Stonington, any one of those days and you want to come and check us out, go ahead and jump online and make a reservation.
6 to 8 people.
6 to 8 people. And
At a time.
Yep. And we're open 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay, I thought we had an open slot in the middle of the day that was walk-ins, but maybe we didn't do that.
Noon to, or 1 to 2 is the open slot. Where you the no reservation spot in the middle of the day?
No, we don't have one.
Don't have one.
Okay.
Gotta make a
We got
reservation.
10 and we go right through to 3.
Leroy knows more than I do.
There's two of us here, so we can take turns eating.
So Ray wants to know how old that scallop is, Pat. I counted 5 rings.
Yeah, it's probably 3 to 5 years old. Yep. And those particular scallops actually came from a scallop farm that's here in town. Marsden Brewer is actually experimenting, or he's been experimenting for the past several years on culturing scallops and actually growing them out. So he does it in Japanese style lantern cages, and he also does it on ropes that hang down into the water. And there's a special drill that you can actually drill through the back of the hinge of the lobster and pretty much zip tie him to a rope and hang the ropes down into the water and let them grow that way. It's the only scallop aquaculture that's happening here in Stonington. There are mussel growers here in town. There are oyster growers here in town, but Marsden has the only scallop operation here in town, and that's where our scallops came from. And Marsden's actually on the board of directors here at MCCF.
Okay. Any other questions, folks? Still got a few more minutes if you want. Let's remind people how else they can experience Leroy.
Oh, yes. So Leroy has a YouTube channel. If you're not familiar, it's called Ask Leroy. If you have any questions for Leroy, you can actually call in to a hotline, Leroy's hotline. It is 224 Ask Leroy.
58 Leroy.
58 Leroy. 224 58 Leroy. I'm glad I've got other people in the room keeping me in check. So 224 58 Leroy. You can call in and ask your questions, and Leroy will ask them on an upcoming episode of Ask Leroy. We've done episodes on clam flats with a local clammer here in town, Herbie Carter. That's a great episode. We've done episodes in the kitchen with Leroy cooking lobsters. We've done a bunch of fun things. So,
Cooking.
Yep. Leroy's a good cook.
Did you want to get up here?
So if there aren't any other questions, we'll probably sign off. And thanks for joining us here today. This is the Discovery Wharf crew here at Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries, and we're happy that summer's getting kicked off here, and we had a beautiful day here to film this lunch and learn. And we welcome you to here to Stonington, and stop by and see us anytime. We're here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, folks, for joining us. We'll be back at the end of July with another Lunch and Learn. Enjoy the rest of your day.